All right, I have been waiting for this one because if you have ever felt like you are doing everything right in UEFN, but your math still is not hitting, this episode is going to change how you think about building. Brian Grayson, also known as Lionheart, is one of the few people in our space who has actually lived the studio world, publishing world, and now he is applying that structure to Fortnite UEFN. And he says a few things in this conversation that every creator needs to hear.
A mix of intuition and data is healthy. Emotion is not. And so when you're working on a game, you really need to be honest with yourself. If it didn't work out the way you want, it's very easy to just be like, well, it didn't work out because of something else. But the data is telling you the story.
That is the mindset shift right there. And then he drops the next part about analytics that I think is going to reframe how a lot of you look at launches.
We were doing Paladin Strike, and the day we launched, it shattered every record at Hi-Rez. It had the highest DAU we'd ever have. The retention was incredible. It looked like it was going to be a winner. The monetization was not strong, so we knew we needed to improve, but like it looked really good. A week later, it didn't look anything like that. And it's because your most qualified players, the people who are your biggest fans, what I call brand ambassadors, are going to come in that first day and they're going to artificially inflate your metrics. And that's not your true base.
If you care about building maps that actually last, not just spikes for a day, you are going to love this episode. Let's get into it.
This is Creative Juice.
All right, I think we're live. We're in. Brian, how's it going?
Hey, man, it's good. How are
Dude,
you?
So happy to have you, man. This is a treat for anyone watching, man. Brian is like one of those few people in Fortnite UEFN who's like actually run major studios, ship big games, and now he's like applying that level of structure and publishing thinking to UGC. So like super happy to have you, super to like pick your brain today.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be on the show. I am a longtime fan. I have watched all your episodes. So I remember like maybe like the third episode, I was like, I'd love to get on this someday.
Yeah.
Finally living my own dream by being on here, which is really exciting.
Bro, dude, thank you so much for the support. And yeah, I think you even gave feedback that like I used. It was helpful. And that goes for anyone listening, man. That feedback, a lot of people are scared or nervous. Please send those things like you did. And just that, man, this is month 10. We're almost 1 year in.
Crazy, dude. The time though.
I don't know, man. It's been nuts. And I don't know. It's been a fun ride, and being able to talk to just people that have been innovative in this space is a dream. So it's fortunate, man. Thanks again.
Yeah. You've had some great guests. Thank you for doing it. Seriously, it's a huge service to the community, and for us to be able to learn about people's different perspectives and level up collectively. It's just like a really awesome place, and there's no one else doing it. I mean, you are the man. Like truly, you are the
Dude,
man.
my ego can't handle this. But no, it's just like we have these conversations on the side sometimes, you know what I mean? Like when we go to events or whatever calls or stuff. And so I love being able to like just make this public and like, hey, these are the things that are going on or behind the scenes, like Unreal Fest, those events. These are kind of those talks you can have. So anyway, man, again, thank you. So I want to start off with your story a little bit because you've had a really interesting arc into this world. You have a pretty unusual career path. You started as a lawyer, then jumping into video games and eventually leading a Fortnite creative program. Can you take us through that journey a little bit? Like, how does one go from practicing law to making games for a living?
It's crazy, dude. I've been a lifelong gamer, and I think you hear that a lot, actually. Even people who come from diverse backgrounds, it's like, well, what unites us all? We love video games, right? It's the way we bond. It's our social activity. It's really enjoyable. And so when I was in law school, and I won't say what year that was.
Yeah, we don't age us.
When I was in law school, you're going to be able to figure it out now. StarCraft 2 came out, and I actually worked with a team, and we released the top user-generated content game in StarCraft 2 all the way back in the day for the first year. It was called Storm of the Imperial Sanctum, and it was a MOBA. It was riding the rave when like League of Legends was starting to catch momentum, but still in the early days. Heroes of Newerth was still out there. Dota 2 hadn't even been made yet. And we made this MOBA, and I didn't actually do any technical work on the project. I did a little bit of design work and mostly community building esports. And I really fell in love with it. I just had such a great time working on this game. And I had never really considered a career path. I was like, this is just something I'm going to do with my free time. And so when I graduated law school, I worked at Foley and Lardner, which is a mega law firm. It's like over 2,000 attorneys all over the world. Yeah, it's huge. It's called Big Law. So really like a great job to get out of law school.
Oh, yeah.
Well, but they hire everybody at the same time. And I went to law school in Wisconsin. So you have something called the state bar privilege, which means I didn't have to take the state bar, but they all hire at the same time. So I had the whole summer off after graduation. And billion things I could have done, learn a martial art or get in shape.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I built a PC and I started streaming on this weird website called Justin.tv.
Oh, wow. The original Twitch. Let's go. Wow. That's OG.
I think the Twitch website actually still worked then, but
Yeah.
we were streaming and I played CS when I was young and I was looking for a CSGO key in my email and it had not released yet. Instead, I found this key for this game called Smite that was in alpha. And I remember I looked at this game and I said, dude, this is the ugliest game I have ever seen. Who's going to play this? And my friend Francis Nguyen, who works, he's actually a VP over at 100 Thieves. At the time, we were just two kids doing whatever. And he told me, he said, I think that game's pretty good, actually. You should try it. I said, okay. I trust my friends. I'm going to try it. And I played it and it was awesome. Like, it was ugly, but it was awesome. And I was like, this is going to be the game I stream. So I started streaming it and I got reached out to by various people who worked in Hi-Rez. Okay, this is a cool opportunity. And back then you couldn't really make money well off Twitch unless you were super big. So it was just something we did for fun. And I got this email from a community manager who basically said, hey, tell me how you think you can, what you think of the game. And I was, in my early 20s and pretty overconfident. And I wrote this crazy emails, like 3 pages long, that was like, here's why your game's gone in a circle in the last 6 months. And here's how you break the cycle and grow it. And I closed it with something stupid like, hey, people pay me like $250 an hour for my time. So you should really listen to me. Paid me that. They paid the firm that. I didn't make anything like that. But that's what I wrote. And I got an email back from Erez Gorin, who was the CEO at the time and the founder of Hi-Rez Studios, actually co-founder with Todd Harris. And he's like, hey, you seem pretty knowledgeable. Do you work in games? And I'm like, no, I'm just some lawyer dude and stream your game. And he's like, well, how about you join Hi-Rez and you can be the lead designer on Smite and I'll pay you this and you can come on board. And we're taking in this investment from this company that's really big from China that's also invested behind League of Legends, Tencent, which everybody knows. And there was like this just really cool opportunity there. And I wrote it back. It's like, nah, I make more as a lawyer.
That confidence, dog. That's crazy. That's amazing.
I mean, my thought was, as I had just gone to law school, I had law school debt, right? I had to earn my own way. And so I was like, it just doesn't make sense. But here's what I'll do. This is what I told them. I said, I'll do some esports commentary. I can't do professional gaming anymore. I don't have the time, but I'm kind of enjoying streaming. I'd love to try esports commentary and help you build up that scene. And also I'll help you design Smite for free. We can just do it by email because if you make a better game, I have a better game to play. You don't need to pay me for that. And he tried one more time and then realized it wasn't going to work. It's like, okay, fine, let's do that. So for a year, dude, while I worked at Foley, on nights and weekends, I would commentate Smite. I traveled all over the world to do like esports competitions and help them figure it out. And then I would design Smite through emails with Erez. And some days we would have only one email. Some days we would have 20 emails. I mean, we really traded a lot. And after a year, this partner comes into my office and he drops this massive binder on my desk. And he goes, dude, you are the new expert on the Affordable Care Act. I said, what? That's Affordable Care Act. What are you talking about? He's like, you're the new one. The person who was the expert left. It's going to be you. You're going to be the new associate who does this. And I wrote to Erez. I said, okay, the fun is over. I've really enjoyed this. I've loved it, like truly loved it. But I got to be out, dude. I got to take care of my career. I didn't hit my minimum billable hours for the year. I'm not going to get a raise. Like I need to be working harder at the law firm than I have been. And Erez wrote back to me and said, what if you were our lawyer? And I said, I looked into it. I said, okay, I could do this. And he's like, here's what I'll get you. And it's still less than I was making, but it wasn't as much less. And I was already hooked. Yeah. So I took it. I think everyone thought I was crazy. My mom told me, what are you doing? Yeah. And I quit my job in Wisconsin. I moved to Atlanta and I started working in games. And my first week on the job, Erez goes, okay, help me design this game. So I thought I was the lawyer. He ended up winning anyways.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
3 jobs. I was doing law, business development, and game design. And when I came in full-time, the company, I mean, when I was consulting with them, it was maybe 40. But when I came in full-time, it was around 60 people. And the first 2.5 years, we grew to over 250 people. It was crazy. Wow. And I was part of the executive leadership team. So I got to have this great visibility into all the problems that game studios have when they're growing, the problems you have with live service games. I also got to be the lead designer on the minimum viable for Paladins. We were working on that actually before Overwatch was announced. I remember that working on. We went to Whole Foods, ate chocolate, and debated whether we would kill the game. Yeah. We agreed to kill it. And then the next day, Erez came in and was like, nah, screw that. We're going to do it. And I was like,
that's wild.
So And I remember because the reason Paladins has cards is I was talking with Erez and he was like, we should figure out a way to sell guns. Like, nobody will let you do that. But I was in a Hearthstone at the time. I was like, but you know what people will let you sell? They'll let you sell cards. And he's like, no way. And I was like, yeah. And that day he spent the whole day walking around the studio asking people, would you buy a gun? They're like, no. And they're like, would you buy a card? Yeah. And that's how Paladins got cards. A little insider.
Dude, oh my God. These nuggets are great, man. That's wild.
Yeah, man. So I was with Hi-Rez for a little over 7 years full time. And I left in 2019. Yeah, 2019. The company had gotten really big. It was 450 people. I had hired an ex-colleague at Foley to take over law, and I moved into publishing and R&D. And so I got the opportunity to work across our publishing. At my peak responsibility, I had 3 teams in Shenzhen, China that reported into me that were external, that were doing R&D research for us in mobile. I had a team in Salt Lake City, and then I had internal teams that I was collaborating with. And so I got to really learn a lot about operating on a global scale and working with individuals all over the world and on all kinds of different projects. And it was very, very rewarding work. The reason I left is because I wanted to try and make an anime game studio. And so I did that. I left, I raised money from Erez. I ran an anime game studio for 4 years. And then after that, I transitioned into UEFN.
Jeez, dude, that is a crazy story, man. Wow, dude. I got so much to unpack on that one. Wow. So do you think, how much do you think law helps out in gaming? Like,
I actually like a lot. Like I actually think more than people realize, because what is law? At the end of the day, it's logic reasoning.
Yeah.
What is programming? It's logic reasoning.
Yeah.
What is good design? It's logical design. Not always. Sometimes actually. I tell people a fun nugget of knowledge is the worst Smite ever rated from our players was when it was perfectly balanced and like every character had like a 50% win rate and people were the most upset. People actually don't like perfect balance. It's better to have some things that are strong and some things that are weak. Little tidbit for everyone.
Well, Fortnite does that a lot. So yeah.
It's important. It's important. People say they want perfect balance, but they mean something else.
Yeah.
So I actually think it's very helpful. And it also helps me navigate conversations on the business side, right? I'm not uncomfortable around lawyers. I speak the same language.
That's
right?
nice.
I'm not uncomfortable around business executives. I'm not uncomfortable around clients. And so I can put things together and view it from both a business perspective, a game developer perspective, a game publishing perspective, and a legal perspective. And I think having that 360 view of how things work and what issues could appear on each side is very
important. So I'm actually curious where like this is it moment actually happens for people. So I always kind of ask them this question, like, what was that moment you knew you wanted to be in game development? Were there like particular games or experiences at Hi-Rez that made you say, all right, this is my calling now? I guess you kind of talked about this though already. So I don't know if
I think it was less the game. I think it was more that I realized I could do it, right? Like it was just like, oh my God, this is actually a career I can do. I never once in all the years that I was growing up considered it. I went to law school to join the FBI.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I was going to join the FBI. I went and worked in big law and then I went to games. Like I think you just have to be open and honest with yourself about what is it that you love and you're passionate about. And chase that, because people get too caught up in money. And the reality is, if you're good at something, you'll make money doing it. You really need to find something that brings you joy. I tell people, I make this joke, I haven't worked since January of 2014. That's when I went full time at Hi-Rez, because I love what I do. I don't wake up and feel like I got to go to work today. Like I love making games. And I think having that year sample, that was the moment.
Yeah, no. And that makes perfect sense, man. I feel the same way. It was just once when I was in gaming, I just felt like this is where I needed to be, what I wanted to do. And it didn't feel like work. Some days feel like work, I will say, but majority of them, if you remind yourself, you're like, dude, I'm not in the oil field. I'm not doing these crappy jobs, dude. Like this is amazing. You get to wake up and do this and make games for people that love to play them. It's the best.
Yeah, I agree. Totally. There's nothing like it. I mean, there really is.
Yeah, there really isn't. So you've seen the industry from obviously so many different angles. Like you helped grow Hi-Rez Studio when it was exploding with games with Smite and Paladin. Now you're at Ghost Gaming doing something totally new with Fortnite. Like, what lessons from Hi-Rez days are you bringing into Fortnite?
There's so many. It would take me forever to list them. But I'll give you like a sampling. So first of all, one of the things that I typically bring early is a mix of intuition and data is healthy. Emotion is not. And so when you're working on a game, you really need to be honest with yourself you may have a strong intuition on you need to do this or that, but you need to measure it. You need to set clear goals. And when you measure it, if it didn't work out the way you want, it's very easy to just be like, well, it didn't work out because of something else. But
Yeah.
the data is telling you the story, right? Players act through their right. They act, and then you need to read that and adapt. So I think that's one thing. Another thing is that related to data, retention is your most important metric.
Yeah.
If your game doesn't retain, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And retention is different by genre. It's different by platform. And so you need to look at benchmarks and relative to what you're trying to build. But at the end of the day, if you can't retain players, that says that your game is not fun.
Yeah.
And there's another lesson there, which is if your day one retention specifically is not good, it's very hard to improve that.
Oh, yeah.
It's very, very hard to improve that. And I see people war against this all the time. I'll make it better.
Yeah.
Marketing. No. There's something fundamentally wrong with what you've built.
Yeah.
And you have such a strong vision for it that it is going to be hard for you to detach from that and do something else. There's a phrase we learn in creative writing. I went to the University of Iowa and studied that, which is kill your darlings.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can fall in love with something and that's fine, but you really need to let go if the data doesn't look good.
Yeah.
3 other things I'll give on
Whoa.
this.
Yeah.
And just the love out there for people.
Appreciate it.
If you're not comfortable with the first out, you worked on it too long.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. There's nothing else to say.
Yep.
You should be a little uncomfortable with your first out. Otherwise, you were working on it for too long.
Yeah.
Players in your community are going to be great at telling you that there's a problem, but they are horrible at telling you what the problem is
Yeah.
and how to solve it. So
Fix your
do not
game.
listen to that stuff. And I'll give you an example. We recently shipped Super Pet World. And in our early play test for Super Pet World, we had players telling us combat takes too long. And I remember several folks in the room giving me suggestions on how we can speed up combat. And I paused and I said, the problem is not that combat takes too long. The problem is that combat is not fun.
Yeah.
We haven't made it fun yet. And so people are telling us it takes too long because they're not having fun. If we shorten it, it will not solve the problem.
Yeah.
We need to figure out how to make it fun. And we iterated on it. And we did, I think, end up solving it. I'm biased, of course.
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
that's an example, right? Where like what the players were telling us there was a problem, but they were wrong about what the problem was. And they were going, and the solution would have been wrong.
Yeah.
And then I think the last thing I'll say from Hi-Rez is watch out for sunk cost fallacy. Yeah,
It's a good one.
well, we maybe did it too fast at Hi-Rez. Kind of had a reputation for they're gonna kill this game again. Hi-Rez, they get a good game and they always kill us. Like,
Yeah.
well, of course, you thought it was a good game because you were playing it, but the reality is the data says it's not a good game. No one else wants to play it. I'm like, that's okay. There can be things for you that are not for everyone, but like it's very easy to be like, we worked on this for 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it is, and to feel an obligation to keep going. And if you have signal that tells you this thing doesn't work, you are only self-harming by continuing to try and work on it. And again, I mean, it's a choice, right? If your goal is not financial outcome, it's just you have something you want to build, fine, keep working on it. But if your goal is financial outcome, if you're running a business
Yeah.
and the signal is weak, you need to get off of it. You need to get off of it.
Yeah.
Straight up.
No, those are great. Oh, that's amazing. Like there's so much to learn here. So like first off, the retention. You know, we I think it's a few months ago now we got actual retention. Like we haven't even really had real retention metrics. Like we did, but we had to kind of like, you know, now they give us straight up D1, D7.
We can compare.
And you can see, and I love that you said this. You need to not just look at like the top game and okay, still LeBron James has 50% retention, right? Like that's freaking crazy. It's crazy, right?
Insane.
But if you're building a practice map, you need to be looking at the top practice maps who are around 25, 30% retention. So 100%. I love that. What I want to piggyback on that, and maybe so let's and again, kill your darlings. I love that saying, and agree. There is a time where you're like your game, like first to market, or time to market too. Do not spend 6 months, a year on these games. You got to get them out in a few months, get it out there, see if players are interested, and then if they are, then go all in on that game and continue.
And by the way, it's not always that you need to ship it, you know, and I'll give you, I'll use Super Pet World again as the example. We worked on that game for a year, but we started testing it.
That's a massive game though, too, by the way. That you have a lot of content in that game. Yeah.
It is big, and we really tried to push the limits of what the tool can do.
Yeah.
But the point I want to emphasize is that by the second month, we were bringing in local Fortnite players and testing it with them and getting their feedback. And the first version actually didn't look anything like the version we shipped.
That's super
it was
smart.
more of like, it was more of like an AFK auto battler. Like the combat would just resolve itself. You didn't have to do anything. It sucked. Nobody liked it. And we would have, if we had worked on that for a year, we would have totally missed. But because we found out it sucked, we were able to adjust, pivot. And by month 3, we had a pretty good formula that we were improving on. And so you can work on like a long duration project, but you cannot work on it in isolation privately without feedback. And spoiler, your friends, your family, they're all going to tell you it's great because they don't want to hurt your feelings. Do not get those people to give you the feedback. Like that's self-bias.
No, that's a great, like, while you're building, again, he's a lawyer, he knows, make sure you get your NDAs before you do some testing or whatever, you know what I mean? But that's a great advice with a month or two to see what people are saying. And there's a few friends that I've had from day one in this ecosystem, and I think a big reason we're friends is because they are not afraid to tell me it sucks or to speak their mind. And that is so valuable having in your corner, and people with you work with as well. And obviously there are ways to nicely say feedback. You don't have to be mean, even though when it's with your friends, it's fun.
Don't tell somebody, hey, I mean, unless it's endearing to say this sucks. Maybe, I think a good rule of thumb is like, say why you don't like it. And even if your suggestion may not be the thing they take, maybe what you would be looking for so they have the information to process. It never feels good when somebody's like, I can't believe you made this.
Yeah.
Thanks. What do I do with that? Like, I get you don't like it, but like, what don't you like about it?
What actionable feedback do I have from this? That's just it. It's trying to filter out those comments, and it's one person's saying too. And I love that you said that. You kind of gotta kind of read through it. You're the game developer. You know your limitations in the engine. You kind of gotta read the feedback, and they might be telling you something different than what they're actually saying. And it's going to your metrics and continue to hear other people's voices. What I wanted to ask on top of that, though, is so say a creator, they are getting a decent average playtime, retention, but it's not like hitting discovery. So we talked about like killing your game. What would you maybe do, or any tips for creators if they're kind of like on that play? We see that all the time, like, hey, look, my game's getting this or that. And obviously when you have such a small pool of players, you're going to have inflated numbers. But still, like, maybe if you have, I don't know if you have any tips or advice on this. This is a kind of a curveball question for you.
No. It's a great question. Yeah. And also, by the way, a great lesson that you just shared that I want to make sure people don't accidentally gloss over, which is that your metrics, whatever you're achieving at low volume, it's only going to go down as you hit scale. It does not go up. And also your early day launch metrics. Like I remember I did this game called Paladin Strike at Hi-Rez, is a mobile version of Paladins that was very similar to Brawl Stars. At a time when Brawl Stars was not doing well, we were actually competing head to head. Obviously, cool. Makes me sad, but
my God, yeah! If you take over Brawl Stars,
I remember going to the Brawl Stars Reddit and seeing like they switched from portrait to landscape, and their community hated them, and they turned that around. Like, still one of the most impressive turnarounds of all time. Yeah, Frank is a god. But anyways, when we were doing Paladin Strike, we launched it, and the day we launched it shattered every record at Hi-Rez. It had the highest DAU we'd ever have. The retention was incredible. It looked like it was going to be a winner. The monetization was not strong, so we knew we needed to improve. But like, it looked really good. A week later, it didn't look anything like that. Yeah, and it's because your most qualified players, the people who are your biggest fans, what I call brand ambassadors, are going to come in that first day and they're going to artificially inflate your metrics, and that's not your true base. Yeah, and so you need to have a level head about it and realize, like, hey, if your goal is 30% day one retention, and that's what you have when you launch, that's not really what you have. Yeah. And there's work to be done if that's what you want to have long term. I think for the to go back to your question, I think for the creators who are trying to figure out, how do I win and discover, there are so many variables that matter, unfortunately for you. It's a very complex thing, and also a beautiful thing, which we can talk about more later. But like, it could be your thumbnail. It could be the name of your game. It could be the other metadata related to your game. It also could be that, while you may have high session length, you're actually losing a lot of players, right? Are you looking at your session length graph, and it's always going to be high at the start because people install, oh, this game isn't for me, and they leave, right? You're never going to flatten that completely. Yeah. But like, does the curve look healthy on the longer tail out, right? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, etc. Or is it pretty low there and pretty high at like pre 5 minutes, like 5, 4, 3, you're just losing players, right? It may be that like the onboarding is too difficult. And so I think rather than like, I see this all the time, but developer gets angry, they go to social media, they scream at Epic.
Yeah.
I've probably even done it once or twice, to be honest, we're human, right? But like the reality is that won't solve your problem. The problem is that either the publishing information you're putting out there, how you package your game is not good, or the game itself has problems. And so you need to improve. And I really think, they've given us analytic device thing. You have like 200 in your game, like track and see where you're losing players, see where they're dropping off, and try to figure out why are they leaving here. Maybe you have a really great game, but there's like some kind of like NPC or boss they have to fight that's too hard. Maybe you built this beautiful weapon wall with like all these things that no one's discovering.
Yeah.
And it's also possible that like, and I mean this in the most endearing way, but your game is too close to another game that's popular. And why are they going to play that? They have the other game.
Yeah. No, that's all great. And again, analytics, we have 200 analytics tools. You can just connect it to a mutator and a switch. You can create your own heat map essentially, right? Like we don't have, I know some people are like, you don't have heat maps maybe if you're not in UEFN.
I love it.
Yeah. But you can create your own. And just that, when I was making games and releasing new games and some in the death run genre, we would get, that would see 5-10 minute fall off and you're like, okay, well, what's going on here? And then you start realizing, well, maybe this level was just way too hard.
Yeah.
Maybe this is way too hard at the start. You make it easier and then, boom, then you just saw the graph change. You know what I mean? Like there are all these little things. And I love what you said, like the lobbies and onboarding. Your big games, you do have to have some sort of onboarding, but you have to be very smart about that because a lot of players, if you can't show them within a few minutes of how to play your game or at least don't even do that, just force them. Like this is one thing I've noticed, like if like Havoc Hotel, right? They're the roguelike genres, right?
I
always wanted to know this because they always throw you in this big lobby at the start. You got to run around, you got to find a door. I always wonder if that first player experience is they just give you a gun and make you start. I always wondered what that would, how that would change the game or the metrics. That's how we think. We think about these little things all the time and just insider baseball. But like those little things, I always love to mess with in my game. So whatever, take that, for what if you can learn something there from your game and apply it. But I think that's the biggest thing. We haven't really gotten into that. Is just the data, using the tools we have to understand your game or figure out what your player psychology is in your game and use that informed data that we do have. Look, we all know it could be better, and they are. They're working we've gotten a lot of analytics over the past few years. Before it was very limited.
I also think people they get distracted by what the problem is, and they end up focusing on the wrong thing. And I just think like it's very easy to war against the system. But the reality is, like, every year since I've been in this space, there have been brand new people who have breakout success who were nobody beforehand. Every year, without fail, they have some magic that you're missing. They're just focused on how do I win with the tools I have. There's just like this great saying out there, right? Maybe it's what's the coach or Bill Belichick? I think he said this, dude. Everybody loves this guy, right?
Oh yeah.
Play with the team you have, not the team you wish you had, right?
Yeah.
You need to understand that, like, yes, you can ask for the ecosystem to change, but the reality is how it is how it is.
Yeah.
And so you need to be able to play in the game that you're in, right?
Yeah.
I can go, download any I can play Fortnite, right? And wish the battle royale played differently, right? But it plays how it plays, and it's going to play how it plays. And I'm either going to learn it or I'm going to have a not good time. And it's the same way developing games. And also, people underestimate how casual players are.
Yes.
Like you play like 10 hours a week, you're hardcore.
Yeah.
You may not think you're hardcore, but you are extremely hardcore. And that's another lesson from Hi-Rez, right?
Yeah.
A casual player plays very little. They are not very good. It needs to be simple. And your view of casual, if you're a game developer, is probably wrong, unless you've learned this lesson before.
Yeah.
What you think is casual is probably like the bottom end of hardcore.
Yeah, no, that is so true. That is so true. I think people think, you look at Steal the Brain Rot or some of these games, like I think that really goes to show how young our audience is, or how, and we don't get a lot of these numbers, but, or just like some of the games that do pop off that are very not, like the 1v1 Forever Gun's a great example. It was a great practice map, but it's kind of turned into this like playground map with custom weapons and kids just love that stuff. They just want to go in and have fun, and they don't have a lot of time to do that, so they just hop in. I think that was a great point.
Yeah, I love that game, by the way. They did such a great job, right? Everyone's sitting there copying Red vs. Blue for like the 30th time, or the pit or whatever. And it's like, hey, no, actually, like, copying it's not going to do anything. They already have this. But actually, what would be really cool is if they could collect these like secret like weapons, and you proliferate that through social media. I mean, they did just such a great job there.
Yeah.
It's really, really impressive.
The guys at Hive, they're smart. They've been around. They've made maps from day one, and they've had lots of success. And they learned the social media side of things, and just that the retention. How do I keep players interested in wanting to come back and try new things? And they're crushing it. And it's hard when you're copying. You're always trying to catch up. You're just always trying to catch up.
It just doesn't work. I mean, it can work like cross-platform, and I don't want to open that can of worms.
Yeah. We don't have to.
But like short of delivering somebody something that they can't otherwise easily get or won't get, like it just doesn't work. And so if you're going to copy inside the same ecosystem where somebody already is, the results are most often going to be disappointing. And there will always be exceptions to the rule. You know, a content creator makes their own version. They have a big audience that wants to support them, but they're playing it because they like the creator, not because they couldn't get this somewhere else. Yeah. And so you just have to be careful.
No, for sure. Last point I want to say on this. It's about, I think, what was it? Is like and creators, when you are making these, when you like your first games too, like we're talking kind of to people who have been in the space a little bit and tried and know, but like it takes your first few games to fail to learn those little things we're talking about too. So you just got to go into this. If you're just coming in trying to make money, your first game, it's like, I don't really know anybody. I would love to talk to you if you've come in and made one game and it took off and great. I would without having other influences, obviously, in other markets. Even then, though, I would love to know that. But just that, I think a lot of this stuff we learned because we've failed so many times. You know what I mean?
And failure's okay. There's nothing wrong with failing. How do we learn? Like at some point we just get too old and we like stop trying to do new things. I don't know what's wrong with us, but like when we're young, dude, we're bad at everything. We're failing all the time. And like that's how we become better. Like failure is part of growth, right? Is we can make up this myth that like a baby, like, you know, that learn to crawl before you walk. Have you ever watched a baby try to walk? Dude, they don't do that. They stand up and they fall on their face.
Yes.
They cry, right?
It hurts.
You have to try and you have to fail, and that's how you learn.
Exactly. No, these are some great gems, man. I'm sure creators are. Hopefully, you guys get your notepads out. All right, let's talk Fortnite for a second, because I remember when people were still trying to kind of figure out what UEFN actually even meant at the time. So, like, tell us about the first time you realized Fortnite Unreal Editor could be a game changer for making games. Was there like a particular creative map or early experience that convinced you, hey, you know, we could build real games inside of Fortnite?
Yeah, there were two experiences that really helped, and I'll keep them brief. The first was a ex-colleague of mine from Hi-Rez. We paired up to do something in Fortnite as an experiment using UEFN, and I really love this browser game called Survivio, excuse me, not Survivor.io. That's a different game.
Okay.
It was also great, but Survivio, which was like a top-down browser battle royale shooter with like little circles. And I love this game. When Battle Royale was like brand new and hot, I used to play it all the time. So let's try to make that in Fortnite. Let's see how long it takes us. And we completed it in 2 weeks. And most of it was us learning the tools. But in the time, we were seeing all these parallels between Unreal Engine, which is where I've spent my career prior to this, and just how fast we could move. And I thought, okay, this is really exciting. And so I connected with Todd, and we ran a little experiment over at Ghost Gaming. And then we made another game called Lane Wars, which was... it's a TPS MOBA, right? Very similar to like, what's the one Valve has coming out? Evading me now. Deadlock.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's very, very similar to that, but we redid it for Fortnite players, and we set up loadouts as classes, so we didn't have the ability to do classes. And we were able to build this whole game in 3 months. And let me tell you, when we shipped it, it was a buggy mess. Yeah. But it was wonderful. And at our shows where we showed it, it was wonderful. We learned the hard lessons of what things break at scale.
Yeah. The Fortnite jank. It gets everybody.
So real,
it gets everybody.
Are so janky, dude. They're so janky. But like, so we launched this. But the thing that was magical for me wasn't like whether it succeeded or failed. It did get an Epic's picks and had like 120 million.
Got your money back. Yeah,
it did well relative for our early games. But the thing that was so exciting about it was that if I was to build that game at Hi-Rez, it would have taken a team of 30, 18 months. It took us 5.5 people, 3 months. And that's when I became a believer. That you can do more with less, faster, and how valuable that is. From that point on, I was sold. And I will tell you, I'm a big believer in Tim Sweeney. I think his vision for Unreal Engine 6 is very strong.
Yeah.
And I felt like if I was going to invest in a UGC space, I wanted to know that if we failed at everything, if nothing worked out, that the people who graduated from our program to something else, right, who moved on to do something else, that they would have built skills that will help them make games professionally for the rest of their life. And UEFN is so similar to UE. And if you believe his vision for Verse, it will be part of UE that everything they're learning, even if you can't make it inside of Fortnite, should apply to professional game development later. And there's going to be a moment, a beautiful, beautiful moment where Verse goes to UE and all these professional game studios do not know anything about Verse or how to use it. And you are going to have an edge, and it won't last long. A couple of years. They're going to learn, and they're going to learn fast. Software engineers are learning new languages all the time. That's part of being a programmer. But like, you will have an edge. You will know how it works, and it will be a great opportunity for you. And that really made me a believer.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And because not only Verse, but even Scene Graph 2 is going to be a new feature that they're going to be bringing into UE6 as well. That I think that's even a bigger component if you understand that and how to work, because you're going to be able to make more performant, larger games as well. So yeah, that is a great point. I feel the same. I mean, I've been here from 1.0, but I mean, we've been asking. Yeah, that was that's even rougher start for a lot of people if you start in the 1.0 days. But it's just that, like, I never thought. I've said this on the podcast already, but basically, I never thought it was so hard when I first Unreal Engine, when I opened it up and I was like, let me just take a stab at it. It was like, oh, I didn't know anything about game development. I don't know what I'm doing. This is a big undertaking. But Fortnite 1.0 just put a player immediately inside, and I could understand space. And then it was pretty limited tools, so it was like we didn't have that much to go. It kind of, like, my ADHD, it kind of made me focus. So then I could, like, start branching out and making larger games and understanding them, like, oh, okay, then it kind of like made it click, and then it wasn't as scary anymore. I don't know, but UEFN is definitely a little mix of both. This definitely could be scary, but I think if you just understand your niche, or understand what you're really interested in making, if you're in art or program, whatever it is, just go full head on that first, and then you'll pick up the stuff along the way, or you'll meet people that know it.
I will also tell you, people underestimate how much we get with UEFN. It is so hard, if you want to build multiplayer games, to build a good backend stack that does not have problems with, like, replication, desync, right? Like, people don't understand how much Epic is really doing for us with UEFN.
Weapons, characters are all taken care of, cross-platforms taken care of.
Oh, yeah, dude. You need a team of 5 people just to deal. You think you don't like moderation in UEFN? Let me tell you what it's like to deal with Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, Apple, Google, right? Valve's pretty easy. But
that's a year. That's a year right there, just dealing with them. Yeah.
Teams work, dude, and like some of those things, they have pretty strict requirements. Like Nintendo, they used to have builds approved like more than 7 days in advance, because like it was the process was just long, and if you had a miss, you can't ship on one platform and update that for your players in a live service game and not update on the other. Like, that's not going to work, and a delay can be catastrophic, right? Players don't care about your problems. They know that what they want, when they want it, and they want it yesterday. Always.
Yeah, dude. So another a question I want to ask you, because you've been in this scene, is on the triple. So you come from AAA, and then you were like, oh, let's check out UEFN. You and a buddy made it a game in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? You realize, like, and we've seen AAA right now, as this industry right now in the games is very rough on the AAA side of things. Like, I guess what's kind of your take on that, and maybe even like in the future of with how UGC has just exploded, and I don't know if you have a take. I don't want to put you in the hot seat, or
I got to take. Yeah. I think everything's a little cyclical, and I think people, we only exist for so long, and we're only paying attention for so long, that for a lot of people, they've not been around long enough to realize this. So for me, when I look at user generated content, I see the parallels to mobile right away, right? When mobile started getting popular, I remember all these PC and console developers, those aren't real games. What a waste, dude. Like, who's going to play this pay-to-win garbage, blah, blah, blah. Dude, mobile's a bigger industry than most of these industries right now.
The biggest,
Yeah, so I see a lot of the parallels, and I also see a lot of the same challenges, right? Like early mobile had a lot of copying, it had a lot of fast follows, it had a lot of bad actors, right?
Yeah.
They had to figure out how to solve these problems, right? Discoverability was difficult, and so still is, right? But it's become more sophisticated where you can run, paid UA campaigns around it and measure performance. And I have a lot of thoughts on that we won't go into today. But the idea is that like the platform grew up, right? And developers who were there early and some who came later figured it out. And there was a time where like EA had the biggest games on mobile, and then they didn't, because right, like console was dominating, and then they weren't, because people were trying to design for what mobile players wanted versus what PC console players wanted. And I think you're seeing a lot of that in UGC also, right? It's like, okay, like a year ago, if you had said the number one game in Fortnite was going to be a game that was a non-combat game, right? People would have been like, "You're crazy! No chance, dude." The number one game in Fortnite is a game where the only combat you can do is slap somebody.
It'll last a week. There's no way it lasts more than a week. Yeah, that's what I would have said. Yeah,
like so I think like what you know and what you don't know is changing, and we have this great opportunity in UGC to learn about what players want and what they need and what their preferences are, and it's going to evolve, and it's going to be different than what it is today, and it will continue to change over time. For AAA folks, so if you want a growth industry, you are well equipped, especially for Fortnite, if you've developed with Unreal Engine, to enter this space and do some really impressive stuff.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to do so if you're an entrepreneur or have that spirit to go out and try and build from scratch or from cloth, however you want to phrase it, right? From nothing. For the folks who want to stay in AAA, I think you're just witnessing that there's sort of this interesting evolution that's happening. Live service games are relatively young. Like, I'm old enough to remember when live service games did not exist.
Yeah.
And I'm not that old. I look old. I'm not that old. Like live service games are new. They are not churning like the old SKU used to, where it's like, okay, I play this, ship and forget, right? And there'll be a sequel. And some people get away with that, right? Call of Duty can do that. Yeah. But there are other games like Fortnite that are going to exist maybe forever. Yeah. And so that changes the game, right? Because at some point you're like, okay, I want to make a competitor of Fortnite. Well, Fortnite's been improved for a decade. Yeah. How are you gonna catch up?
Yeah.
Like, how are you gonna catch them? Because you don't have the time to develop in isolation for 10 years. It's not gonna work. And so
at the update cadence, and they own all these people who owns thousands of dollars of skins in that game. Yeah.
Well, because here, let's talk about what gaming really is. It's gone from the pastime to being the mall, right? Like, this is gonna sound old, right?
Hangout.
Like, like you used to hang out in person at these different locations, the theater, whatever, and now you hang out in your favorite game, and it's a social hub. And so if you are in a social hub, well, to try and move someone out, that's very hard. You have sunk cost fallacy on money spent. You have people who are good at the game who don't want to learn how to get good at another game. You have people who have all their friends in that area and they don't want to go without their friends. And then you have like the leaders and the followers, right? Some people are willing to go. Some people are just like, they only follow if somebody goes.
Yeah.
And there's even more ways to break this down. But the point is it's extremely hard to move somebody from their home, from where they want to be. And so how do you do it if you're in AAA? Well, you got to innovate. You got to come up with something that has never been seen before. But that's hard in AAA because executives at big publicly traded companies, they got to deliver against quarterly earnings and reports, right? And so they can't take on like these huge monumental risks. You really need private companies to do this. And even private companies, they're scared because like, okay, am I really going to bet $100 million, $200, $300 million on this game? Like the amount of money you have does not correlate to the likelihood of success.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends who raised during like the heyday where you could like right post-COVID, right? Where you could get money pretty easily on a startup. Most of those studios have failed.
Yeah.
And the people are very capable, but like, it's just hard. Innovation is hard. And also taking risk is hard. And when we are naturally incentivized as human beings through our own psychology, probably how we survived and ended up dominating this planet, to do things that are safer, right?
Yeah.
I know this formula works. I'm going to do this formula with a few little things added in. But gamers have become more sophisticated as consumers, and they're not necessarily willing to wait and do.
Yeah. Dude, holy cow. That was a great breakdown, man. That was off the top. Man. Dude.
I think AAA isn't going away. Like, I think it will still be here and you'll still get big budget games.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, like, it's going to be challenging. And I think you also have to ask yourself, if you're a young game developer, is that where you really want to go? I have friends who for 20 years have done nothing but model weapons. They're the best at modeling weapons. That's cool. They love that.
Yeah.
That sounds like death to me. I don't want to sit
Yeah.
there and model a weapon for 20 years.
Yeah,
right?
that-
I like that. Like on one project, I'm doing product management. On another, I'm designing game systems. On another, I'm doing audio work. Like I like that I get to touch a lot of pieces, and
Yeah.
you see that reflected in my work history. But like to me, the like factory line assembly worker is like a death march to boredom. I don't want.
Yeah, and burnout. No, for sure, man. That's perfect.
They are the best. They are the best at what they do.
Oh no,
That part is true. For their role, you will not find anybody better. And it's very satisfying to work in AAA and surround yourself with people who are all experts at what they do. You will, it is a euphoric feeling to be surrounded by really intelligent and skilled people.
Yeah.
And AAA has some of the best.
No, for sure. There's definitely, I love working with, I've worked with a lot of people from the AAA industry that have come over into the UGC and stuff. And it's really fun to work with people at that high level. It shows it's just a different, like, they have just like a different outlook, or a different, like they have this different energy, But what I want to say on the AAA, last thing I want to mention, and I have this a really cool mentor, and he's worked in some of the biggest gaming companies in the world, and I remember I was telling him, like, man, I think, like, why isn't EA, why isn't Supercell, why aren't these guys coming in to the UGC?
Good question.
And he was just like, they don't have to. You know what I mean? Like, why they don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? They're making, EA, there's always the new Madden, NBA, whatever. They have that cornered. And I think they don't, some of these companies don't necessarily have to do anything because they're just that big. But I do think it's interesting. I can't wait till the day where I can play like NBA 2K on Fortnite or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, one day I wonder if that's where things will go, or Call of Duty, whatever. Like, I mean, Call of Duty 7, I think that was the worst performing Call of Duty I just read today.
Yeah, they looped back to an art style that just never performs well for them.
And that's
a little
my baby.
Questionable why they did that, but I'm sure they had a reason. I mean, whatever.
Yeah,
they'll have a great year next year. It's like the main studio that's on it next year, and they go back to military and like modern combat. That always works really well for them.
I know. I hope they figure it out, because man, that's my Call of Duty is my heart.
I will say, related to what we were talking about, and this is directly helpful for Fortnite creators. It is helpful to understand how AAA works and how big companies work.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I think people get really angry at someone on the internet.
Yeah.
Right. This person running the FN Create account never listens to me, dude. I'm going to tag them in all my grievances. And it's like, okay, first of all, they read the things you say. And so be nice, because there's a person behind that. And they have feelings, and it never feels good when somebody's rude to you.
Okay.
But second, also consider that, like, they don't have the power to fix your problem. And a big company works on a big schedule. When we were doing live service for Smite, we would have locks 3 months in advance. So sure, you could find an issue that you wanted me to fix, and I could agree that it's an issue. I can't get to it for 3 months.
Yeah.
Like, that's the soonest I can schedule it. And then it's probably going to take time to do and launch. And so I think it's easy to be critical of big companies if you've never worked in a big company.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, they're mega yachts, dude. You cannot just learn this thing like it's a tugboat, dude. These are mega yachts.
Yeah,
and so there is process. The process matters. There's a lot of moving parts, and you have to have patience. And it's not that you're not being listened to. It's that the cadence in which you want someone to respond is not possible. And the best way I think players or developers, can relate to this is to just think about how your players are to you, right?
Yeah.
Your players are like, why didn't you fix this bug like the day I reported it? Well, it takes time. I have to reproduce it. You didn't give me any of those steps. I then have to solve the problem. It might be a deep systematic problem, or it might be a simple config issue. But like, those things take time. And how that doesn't feel good when players do that to you, you're doing that to our platform partner. Don't do that.
That's a great point. I mean, it's really hard to turn a cruise ship around. It really is. It takes a long time, and just that. And they are listening. We have the proper channels. I do. You can go public with your problems. I always said that, but just I always, when I do, I would always try to give like the feedback or an alternative of what I think make improve it, or like try to give them feedback. But always be nice.
You can be angry sometimes, like polite angry.
Yeah.
If you're angry all the time, then that's your normal. So when you have a real issue, no one knows to pay attention to you or not, because you're just always angry, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's you.
Your emotion is just another tool on your tool belt, right? Like, have a baseline, turn up when it's actually a real problem, turn down when it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And look, there's still UEFN is still very new, especially if you're looking at it compared to Roblox, all those things, you know what I mean? It takes time. And, you know, I think they've tried to like port 1.0 into UEFN and or port it off a UE5 into UE, like, so, and I don't know, this is I'm just, you know, what I'm guessing here, but like I can't imagine when you've done like a bastardized systems like that to change things, you know what I mean, takes probably is way harder than we think. Like today we got the new chapter 7 UI and people are like, one of my posts is taken off because people are like, that's all it took, huh? Where's chapter 1, 2, 3? Like, you know, you just press a button. That's how easy it is. Why can't we have that? You know, this, I think it's just always something.
There's always something, and there's always going to be people who just they either don't want to understand or they're not going to understand. But like,
that's
if
their
you're
niche.
not one of those people and you aspire to be better, as I think many of us do, especially if you're watching a podcast, right? I feel like that's an indicator that you aspire to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah,
you really need to seek empathy and understanding over anger and frustration.
Yeah,
I mean, we're all human. I get angry, dude.
The
other day I had the letter T turned down by moderation, and they told me it was a Lego head because they were looking at T from the bottom and the T was yellow and they could not overturn it. That is a very infuriating moment for me. Okay. I was very angry. But the reality is like, you know, there's going to be mistakes. Like you said, it's an early platform. Like me getting angry will not solve the problem. It will just raise my blood pressure. And me. So a little patience, you know, and just remember, like, your success or failure probably doesn't actually tie to these specific issues.
No, there's also a false, like, people love to watch drama. So when you, like, these people, when they post these negative things online, they get the way more engagement. And so now that, you know, oh, well, this is what I need to post. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a little bit of that going on, but I don't know.
A gladiator moment, dude. If you have the power of the crowd, you really have the power.
You do.
You know?
Well, and a lot of people, that's how a lot of big influencers, you know, like, or even musicians, like Taylor Swift, your ex, like she always sings about that, things like that.
Yeah.
And what it comes down to is people like want to, they might not be outspoken, but they follow you and your mission. I don't know, like the Tate, he had one. There's those kind of guys, you know what I mean? And they get this crazy following because this guy is speaking what they wish they could say. Like that's how they get you those cult followings, right?
Yeah.
And they've built it up.
Controversial takes.
Yes.
The rise of extremism on the internet, right? Like,
and so there is a psychological thing to that, and where like that's how some grow. Whatever. We're getting way off in the weeds right now. I'm sorry. Let's get back on track. Your current role is definitely very interesting, brother. So like, because the model is different, I want to talk about Ghost Launchpad. And I know it's not like a typical game studio. It's an accelerator inside of Fortnite. Like, why did you guys choose to build a, you know, UEFN studio like that versus making like a standalone indie game, right? You know, can you tell us about that? Like, what's your advantages, disadvantages, things like that?
It's a great question. I think we wanted to challenge the traditional studio model a little bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, by the way, but our feeling was, can we do something that's not quite the standard norm of what other people have already done before? Because the reality is, you know, it's not easy to make money in user-generated content. You have to be very good, and it takes time to learn those lessons. And if you're doing a traditional studio model, well, you're going to need to, you know, raise a ton of capital, hire a big team. You know, people who are good at what they do are expensive, and you're going to need to build things up methodically, and it can take a very long time. And the ecosystem is constantly shifting, and also that model is going to attract people who maybe aren't a great fit for a fast-changing ecosystem, right? Like to say they like change. Yeah. But then when you put them in this situation of like entrepreneurship, it's very stressful, I think, for a lot of folks.
Oh, and
there's nothing wrong with that. So when we started thinking about how can we do a studio that does well in user-generated content, and what are the values we want to instill, the first word that came to my mind was entrepreneurship. And I have talked to so many game developers in my career who do not understand the fundamentals of product market fit, how to identify a target audience, how to interview players, how to take that feedback and process that feedback, and how to ultimately be a craftsman rather than an artist, right? First thing you'll hear when you talk to indie developers a lot of time is, I made the game I love that I always wanted to make. Great. is there anybody else who's always wanted to play that game besides you?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, 7 years later, you're not going to be very happy with how this turns out, right? And so the thought is like, can we create an environment? Like, what kind of environment's going to attract people who think more like craftsmen, less like artistry? And Accelerator just kind of stood out, right? It's like, okay, these folks have a natural interest in wanting to be entrepreneurs, in wanting to learn the business side of things and how to build a business and how to be successful. And so, like, let's try that. And we ran a sample. We didn't just do it blind. We went to local game jams. I brought in people who had never developed with UEFN before. Some of them had limited UE experience. Some of them had never even made games before. And we ran a sample pilot program, a team of 4, team of 2, and a team of 1. And at the end of that program, 12 weeks in total. But by week 10, everybody had a minimum viable that they had built on a tool set they had never used before. Again, to the power of UEFN.
That's crazy. Right? That's amazing.
Yeah. And so, I mean, none of these games did anything.
But just like we said, your first game's going to suck. So, yeah.
It's going to suck. But like the fact that we could do that and that we could see them like execute so well and that they were excited by that sort of gave us credence, like, okay, this is the right model to go with. And then how do we scale this? And so what we decided was we need to hire developer support, because some people are good at one thing but not good at another, right? If I have somebody who's let's say computer science grad from Georgia Tech, right? Well, they're probably going to be pretty good at verse, but they're going to suck at art. So they're going to need help with art. Yes, maybe there's another artist in the program that they want to team up with, but maybe also we can have an artist on staff that helps them with the art side of things, right? UEFN has a lot of built-in art. There's also Fab, which is a great marketplace for purchasing art. And those tools combined with somebody who can also create art and understand that pipeline, and who wants to be more of a generalist than somebody like in the AAA pipeline where they're very specialized, I think can really level up these things. And so we hired a team for development support. And we also hired a team for publishing support, right? Thumbnails, metadata, the stuff we were talking about before, that actually really, really matter. If your method for a thumbnail is GPT, give me this thumbnail, and that's probably not, sometimes it works, but like, it's probably not going to work for you. You're going to need to go a little deeper into understanding why thumbnails work.
Yeah.
What is a good click-through rate? What is a good click-through rate for genre, for different discover categories that you're featured in, right? It's not the same everywhere. Yeah. And so you're going to have to learn these things. And so our thought was we capture those lessons at Ghost, we get some support at Ghost, we bring in the entrepreneurs, and we form this perfect triangle of like the entrepreneurs get what they need from development support, from publishing support, and they're also working together and pulling their lessons. So they're all elevating, right?
Yeah.
If I'm working by myself at home in my basement or wherever, right? Like I'm only going to get the lessons that I learned. If I'm working alongside 10, 20, 30 other entrepreneurs, I'm going to get the lessons I learned and all the lessons they learned. And I'm going to turbocharge my way to being able to find a sustainable business inside.
Yeah. Dude, that's amazing. And I mean, I love what you guys are doing. You guys actually have made some really cool games. I feel that came out of that camp. Like, if people are maybe interested or listening or about maybe joining that, like, is there a way to reach out or like anything on that?
Yeah, so you can go to ghostgaming.com. That's our website. And at the top toolbar, there's a pull down for game dev. And there's a contact us form at the bottom. And you fill that out, and all those get forwarded directly to me. So I do see them. Don't write me anything weird, please.
Yeah.
Why do I say these things? But anyways, like, you can keep at it.
You may or may not see it, maybe. Yeah.
But like, I mean, I think that's the best way, right? Reach out to us at Ghost Gaming. Right now, I will say that we are primarily local. And the reason we're local is because this model works even better when everybody's together in the room.
Yeah.
And so we have a studio space that we've invested in. It's attached to our live production studio where we have a whole build out where we do like live production shows, patch notes, etc. We run our own conferences, right? Ghost Gaming is more than just a launch pad, right? We have a whole content creator network of folks. And so we're actually a much larger company than it seems.
Oh, yeah.
But for the game development division, we have our individual studio space that is committed to us. And right now, everyone we work with is in that space at least a few days a week. I do want to expand it even more broadly than that, but I think for now, you really have to be Atlanta based if you want to work in Launchpad. If you want to work with the publishing side of Ghost Gaming and Ghost Launchpad, I am totally open to that. You do not need to be in Atlanta, but the level of support you're going to get is slightly different, and you can use that same contact as Ford to reach out.
Very cool. I'll have that link too in the description, so you guys can just go check them out, man. Yeah, no, of course, man. I love what you're doing. I love that mission, and I've known Todd for a long time as well. And man, you guys, you guys have always not only been top players in this space. We've always been giving back and helping out and fun. You do all these things that are incredible for the community. So thanks again for that.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on. I have this one's kind of around leadership changes. So like you founded studios and led big teams. Now you're working with small indie creators teams through Launchpad. What's your approach to leading and creating teams in this UEFN space? Like, how do you keep the small Fortnite dev teams aligned and motivated?
Sometimes I think I'm like those mean chefs in the kitchens in the movies where I was just like, here's how you need to do this.
Yeah. Just a big pot of, yeah. Yep.
That makes it sound so scary.
Yeah.
But like, no. But like truly, like the way we do this is we instill core values of entrepreneurship and we do it in the open. And it's the reverse of every business book you've ever read. They teach you to coach privately, celebrate publicly. We do everything publicly. If you make a mistake, we talk about it in the room. We literally stand up at our desks and we talk about it, and the room gets more quiet and they all listen and everyone soaks the lessons. And the reason we do that is not to be cruel. It's a training protocol, right? You need to be able to handle what you would feel is harsh and embarrassing feedback. And you need to be able to detach your emotion from that and go through that process unscathed, because your players are going to be mean. They just are. I mean, I don't know why, dude, but they just are sometimes.
Yeah, they just keyboard warriors.
Yeah, right. Like anonymity on the internet. But like, you have to be able to take harsh feedback. And also, it doesn't do us any favors for me to take somebody and coach them and then have to go repeat that coaching 5, 6, 7 other times with different people. When everyone can get the lesson together, that's one of the benefits of the program, is that we can grow together. So I think we instill core values of entrepreneurship. We coach open and honestly. And then I think also you need to have a lot of patience, but work with urgency. And that's something else we constantly remind folks of. So it's like, be patient with the results. The games are going to fail. The outcomes are not going to be what you want, but you also need to work really hard as if they're working, and like every moment matters, because time is the great equalizer. And if you are going slowly, your growth is also going to be slow.
Yeah.
I think you also need to protect your culture. Super important. I have learned this from company to company. If there's somebody in your program who's not a cultural fit and you're pretty sure of that, they need to go, even if they're good.
Yeah, and that's a hard lesson to learn, and especially your first time letting someone go. It's the worst. But yeah, it's so true.
You want to believe, right? It's like, I see your potential, but you're just not right for us.
Yeah.
But if you do that, you're really just harming both parties, right?
You can put in a grenade in your...
Yeah. Because that person's not going to succeed. They're not a fit. And also everyone else on your team who is a fit is going to see this person and become frustrated by them. And so I think you need to protect the culture that you want. I also think you need to write down and have a strong vision about what the culture is and continue to challenge it.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a guess either, though. Yeah.
And don't do the bumper sticker thing. Our culture is work hard. Okay, who's not trying to work hard? Like, come on, man, that's not a cultural moment. Like, there's like the sign on the wall, then there's like the reality, and it's pretty easy to figure out. I mean, you can just sit there and think critically about how do you work today? What do you expect? And that is your culture, like truly. And everyone's working hard, so that's not it. And then the last thing I'll say for leadership is I read a lot of books. I try to read at least a book a month, sometimes more, on leadership, on production, on design. I think there's this thing for lawyers called CLE, which is continuing legal education. And I think not everyone uses it the way it should be used, but I think what it stands for is correct, which is you need to always be learning and trying to improve. And one way to learn is through your own experience. And I think that's the most valuable way. But another way is to get other people's perspective. And there's this song I love. You guys can look it up sometime. Boz Lerman, Everybody Wears Sunscreen. It's like a speech.
I've seen that. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's like a reporter who wrote this and then he delivered it. But like the point is that advice is a form of nostalgia, right? It is fishing out pieces of the past, wiping them off, cleaning them, and recycling them for more than it's worth, right? Yeah. And so when you read a book, the answer is not necessarily in that book. It's somebody's advice, but that doesn't mean it's not worth something. And so I think challenging your own perspectives and your own experiences by reading other people's perspectives and experiences in books is extremely valuable, and something I think anyone who's in a leadership role needs to be doing and needs to be doing.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And even in game development, if you go to school for game development, like especially the past few years, like by the time you graduated, the whole scene, the outlook of game development that you learn is changed. It's
I feel like
changed.
you learn like the GDD model. It's like write up this 200-page GDD. Dude, I've never written a 200-page GDD
Yeah,
in my entire career because the game is iterative. It's changing.
Oh, for sure.
I don't have the time to maintain a 200-page GDD.
And the tools have changed, the programming changed. So, but what it does teach you, just like you said, you continual learning, and I think that's that's what you should take from if you are, you know. And I wouldn't recommend whatever about this. I don't know if I would recommend even going to gaming college right at this point, but you know, you do you. There are probably some benefits of meeting people, things like that. But learning outside of that, and in game development especially, there's this ecosystem is consistently changing, and so we have to be on top of new things, and just always kind of like if you're not learning new things, man, you're being stationary. I don't know. I think my brain just like dulls. It's just I'm not, you know. I don't know what that is. They're just like
up there, right?
Yeah, it's just not on.
Start doing the like creatine every morning trick.
Yeah, I do my creatine, so there's no excuse there. So, any books out there you want to like recommend?
That's a good question. There was a great
I would love to know,
book.
actually.
Yeah. No. There are a few actually. I wish I had my Kindle on me. Hold on, let me pop it open because there's one
cool.
I will tell you just off of memory that I recently read, which is a strange book to recommend, but I'm going to recommend it anyways. The Lego Story, which actually will not teach you necessarily direct like leadership techniques, but it is a fascinating story, and it covers. Most people don't know this, but the Lego Group is actually family owned and private.
Yes,
still to this day, the Kirk Christensen family owns it. And so you can read how they have navigated handing it off and how each individual generation that has been in the leadership seat has thought about leading and growing the company. I actually think it is extremely fascinating. But aside from that, the books that I would recommend is, first of all, Game Analytics by Russell Ovens is phenomenal. It will teach you, uses a mobile base, but it will teach you how to read your data and read your data better.
Amazing.
So you can understand the health of your game. I liked Up, Down, Up, which is Kim Nordstrom. It's just like a collection of testimonials of people who have gone through the entrepreneurial journey in games. I thought it was a great book. Ooh. I really, really, really liked, which is going to sound maybe a little strange, but it's a book called Scaling Up, which is a business process book. It has nothing to do with games. But Scaling Up by Vern Harnish was great. And it taught me to start doing again, which I had not done in a while, start, stop, keep exercises with my team so that I can earlier identify things we're doing well and areas where they need help. And I think that's a good one. I also enjoyed A Playful Production Process by Richard Lamartin. And the last one I'll recommend is the Game Product Management Handbook by Sari Komar. And I apologize if I mispronounce anybody's names. Those are the most recent books that I've read that I found have been very, very good. And then there's The Art of Game Design is out there. It's like an academic book used in schools.
Yeah, that's my toilet book. I reread it all the time. Yeah.
If you're doing anything with game design, it's a great book. And it's one that everybody should
agree. That's a great one. Oh man, great recommendations. I got some reading to do now. Thank you for that. All right, I want to talk about kind of the creator economy. So let's talk about money.
Money.
Here we go. Fortnite UEFN is pretty new in how creators can earn engagement payouts. We have in-app purchases. Like, from your perspective, what does it take for a creator to actually turn this into a substantial business? What changes do you think are still needed to make this economy or economics here work?
Yeah. First off, I would just start and say that it's extremely hard. And I feel that is glossed over on social media. Sometimes you'll read these stories like overnight success. This guy's a multi-millionaire. They're cashing in bank off UGC. And then in a very small tagline, it's like average creator made nothing, right? Like, I mean, you just have to understand that like nothing's probably too extreme. There's some amount there, but like, you have to understand that it's just very hard. I think the number one thing I would say, if your goal is to make money, is to make sure that your game has product market fit for Fortnite players, not product market fit for some dude on Steam who's not in Fortnite, not product market fit for you personally, unless you play a lot of Fortnite yourself. Yeah. Fortnite players, that is essential. If you want to make something that is going to earn you money, it needs to be something that people who play Fortnite today want to play. And if you don't know what product market fit is, you can just look it up. There's plenty of resources out there. That is the number one way to win. Secondly, it is also the number one barrier to growing the ecosystem because it is only Fortnite players. And I think when you think about the long-term vision of what Fortnite needs to become to compete with Roblox, at a higher level to surpass Roblox, to be the metaverse that we've heard Tim Sweeney speak a lot about. It really, and not getting into like the execution layer of like, does Fortnite need to rebrand or not, right? But it really needs to find a way to grow beyond Battle Royale. And I think there's a lot of experiments that have been done there, but I don't think we've been successful collectively as a ecosystem, right? I don't think third-party creators have been able to drive meaningful traffic from outside Fortnite. And similarly, I don't think Epic has been able to figure out how to grow Fortnite to be more than just Fortnite.
Yeah.
So that is the number one thing that needs to change for monetization. It's not discovery.
Yeah.
Discovery is actually phenomenal, by the way. There's no other ecosystem that I have been in, and maybe Roblox and some of these do this. There's no other ecosystem that I've been in where you literally get paid for the platform advertising your game.
Yeah.
Like when you're in Discovery, you are getting engagement-based payouts, and they are voluntarily, you usually pay for that. Like,
yeah,
we're getting paid for that. Like that's crazy. So I just think yes, Discovery is not perfect. There are problems. I will be the first to admit that. But but like also like it's not the thing that's preventing you from monetizing. The thing that is preventing you from monetizing is that you need to build a game for Fortnite players, and Epic needs to, and I think it's more Epic than us, to be honest. I think it's hard for third-party developers, but Epic needs to figure out how to grow this audience.
No, that's a great answer. I mean, it is tough. It is tough. And I don't know. There's been signals, though. We're seeing new games come in. I mean, some will say they're coming from Roblox clones that have already maybe had the IP success, right? Such as Steal the Brain Rot so big. So it's kind of always has the press. But go ahead. What's that?
Let me challenge that just a little.
Go ahead,
for the viewers, a little challenging. So like I think you see such strong signal from Roblox games coming into Fortnite because of the lunchroom conversation, right?
Oh yeah. My kids 5 and 7 talk about it, man. Yeah, 100%.
You get it, right?
100%.
Like you go to school and you're probably in one of three camps. You're either a Roblox player, a Fortnite player, or a Minecraft player.
Yeah.
Maybe Hightail soon. So you're probably in one of those three camps, right? And so you want to be able, I mean, we care less as we get older, but as we're kids, you care very much about social acceptance.
Oh, yeah.
And being included and being part of a group or a tribe.
I want to own all the Pokemon. I want the Charizard, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So like when you care about that, if there's a game that the lunch group is talking about that's in Roblox and you're a Fortnite player, that game doesn't exist there, well, then you can't join the conversation. You're excluded. Yeah. That doesn't feel good. So of course, bringing that popular game over into Fortnite so more kids at the lunch table can talk about it is going to be a successful strategy.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna have to figure out licensing or get sued by Adam Star or whatever. But like
he was on the podcast. Great episode.
It was a good episode. Hi, Adam, if you're watching.
He probably is. Adam's the best.
Like
that's their IP.
Yeah. Like that's why it's successful. But I don't know that it grows the audience as much as it's just helping those kids participate at the lunchroom conversation. And what I'd really love to see is okay, there's all these people who love Animal Crossing. Are they going to come in, right? Like there's an obviously, we can talk about Fall Guys, right? Since it's a hot topic right now, right? It's like, okay, they launched a new mode inside Fortnite for Fall Guys. It looks awesome, right? Yeah. Fall Guys still exists as a standalone game. Why? Why is Fall Guys not in Fortnite? Like, you own some audience. Like, I know why. It's probably technical reasons, more complex than I'm going to make it sound. But like, the reality is like, you have an audience that exists that you could merge, but you haven't merged them yet. Like Epic needs to go first, right? They have several different audiences that they need to merge into one and make that successul, right?
No, for sure. And they did try Fall Guys. Remember there's an IP for Fall Guys. They gave us the IP for Fall Guys, and we didn't really get too much success.
Fall Guys game still existed, right? So if I play Fall Guys, why would I ever install Fortnite to play Fall Guys stuff? I've got my game, right? The same thing with Rocket Racing. Why would I play Rocket Racing? I've got Rocket League. Like the standalone games are part of Fortnite and everything is one. And
I see what you're saying. Yes.
They were built separate from Fortnite. They have different backend infrastructures. They have different tech, right? But if these things were just one game you installed and there wasn't this other game you could go to, I think you would see that growth happen. Yeah. But Epic has not done that yet. And I think maybe that's the first step. I mean, it's a high-risk step. If you get it wrong, you lose all these communities, right? Well, and so, they probably want thin client, all those other pieces.
I was just going to say, when mobile, thin client, I think that will maybe they'll take bigger swings and actually add Fall Guys on our discovery. And here's going to be a good thing we see is when Unity comes in this year, there's some big games that could easily be ported over. Well, I say easily. I don't know how this is all going to work, but in my brain that are huge on Unity that can come right into our ecosystem. And a lot of them are mobile first. So I think still how that's going to run on mobile is still going to be a big factor. But yeah, I think that'll be interesting when we see that, if we see any big hits. I think so Silk Road is one of them. Among Us, that's another one that is from Unity. So if they put Among Us and we have Imposter, we have some, not knockup, but we have some whatever. Similar games right? of that are doing well on our platform. So if that comes in, that'd be really interesting. So I think we might be able to get some of these answers hopefully this year and see how that goes. But yeah, I think what I mean is we are starting to see new genres, new games, which we haven't seen stick and stay. Like we've seen some pops, but that were not BR centric. So I those are some good signals, and I hope for our ecosystem. And again, it's what the players want to play. They want to play Brain Rot if that's what they want to play. I mean, we can't predict that, but maybe as they age up, they're going to want to play some very high quality games. You know, who knows?
By the way, I will argue, not that you're implying this, but I'll just argue for the other people who I know think this.
Yeah,
Brain Rot is a high quality game, right? Like that's a great game. It is the epitome of like simple game design. Like I hear this all the time, dude. That game is so simple. I could make that. Why did that work? Like, what do you mean, dude? It's beautifully like Clash Royale. I still think was one of the best games of all time, right?
Yeah,
I haven't played anymore, but I remember when it came out. I just play a lot of different games.
It's
the best game of all time, but I'm not playing it. But like at its time, right when it came out, like it was perfectly simple, and so many people tried to follow them and failed because it was just the perfect version of what that game needed to be.
Yeah.
And simple game design, like regardless of how you feel about Brain Rot or memes or whatever, like simple game design that is highly accessible, highly social, that jives with an audience, right? Product market fit is like the way to do things. And I made the chef example earlier. Reduce it. It's probably overscoped. Reduce it. And I make this mistake still. Like I'm looking at some of the games we've watched. I'm like, why did I do that? Like reduce.
Yeah.
Remember your own lessons, and like, yeah. Anyway.
No, and for sure, I mean, people just look at like overall, people think UEFN was the next AAA type games, and they look at Roblox, and I did this too earlier on too. It's like, oh, I don't like how the blocks, I don't like that look. I want to play the new Call of Duty. I want to play the high end games. I want I have the nice computer. I want to, push its limits. So I think we get that little mix up, but I agree. Still the Brain Rot.
It's a mobile mistake. These aren't real games. We need to bring them real games.
Exactly, yes.
That's not what they want. Like they don't want your AAA Call of Duty inside of the user-generated content ecosystem. If they want that, they'll go play Call of Duty. Like they're looking for something else.
Yeah.
And it is our job as game developers to figure out what that is and deliver it. And if you do that, you will be successful and you will make
100%. And I remember this, like, so red, I mean, I've been since day one. So I seen the red versus blue. Like there was this game Pro 100. And it's still around. A lot of people will know what this game is. And it's basically a red versus blue, but it's on the prefab boat we could just throw down. And he kind of made a very simple version of Red Bird. This was the first one. And this game started taking off. And I remember somebody at Epic hit me up and he's like, hey, what do you think of this game? And I went and played it. And I was like, this game's horrible. Who's playing this game? This sucks. The game started taking off, right? And then I was like, oh, man, what's going on here? So then I went in and then I actually gave it a play, and I was in there for an hour and a half, and I was like okay, now, I get it now. I understand this, and same with the red versus blue. That had the same thing. It just took and same with the steal the brain rot. And I didn't really say I don't think like that anymore. Back this is early on. It's popular for a reason. I want to go find out why. And what's funny is now I have young kids. I played it, and I'm like, oh. Okay, this is super sticky. This game loop is crazy. It's easy to understand. I see me wanting to sneak up and steal these things. This is super fun. But again, maybe not my game I want to play every day. That ain't what I choose. But then I watched my kids play it, and they played it totally different. They just want to steal. They don't care, or they want to do the fun little things inside of it. They'll look at the brain rots. They like to collect. He gets pissed if someone steals his brain rot. It was so eye-opening and get both sides, or I get both sides to see why some creators think think like that, but like we're just one perspective. And there's a reason that these games do pop up and stay. And I think it's important to not have that mindset. Go in there and study and understand, why is this popular? Why are people liking this? What is the motivations for players to keep coming back? And how can I take that and put it in my game or a new game idea that's more Fortnite eccentric or whatever? Like if we're just talking about UEFN, whatever, but like how do you turn that into something else, right? And people already have. We're seeing all these now brain rot, different genres coming, which that always happens. We've seen that with Pillars. That'll always happen. But that's kind of like your first sign. If it's really hard to be first movers on these games. I mean, you're competing with two 16-year-olds in a basement, like, no overhead. They're gonna crush these games and they're gonna get it out, and they're gonna beat you. But how can you learn from that? Be ready for the next thing. And I'm sure there's a lot of creators right now thinking about, oh, I missed the brain rot. And I've heard this. I've heard this from top teams. They missed the brain rot.
Miss the wave.
But that doesn't mean they will mix the next one.
The most popular brain rot game right now is a brain wave, by the way.
Yeah, it is the tsunami. And dude, again, but that's Roblox. If you go over to Roblox, it was popular. That's how what happened. It was popular in Roblox, came over. But
yeah. It's the lunchroom thing we talked about, right? It's
exactly.
It's in one area, then it's in both areas. We saw this in early mobile with iOS, Android. Also.
But just like look how that evolves on Roblox, just like that, and the games do that here, same thing. So I don't know. I think that's like a big takeaway for creators that are really trying to. I think that's a good focus, and don't go copy. I'm not saying any of that stuff, but like at least learn. At least I think a lot of people, they just go make the games they want. They don't actually go play the popular games or understand. It's so hard to do that especially if you don't know Fortnite. Coming into Fortnite early on in UEFN, there's a lot of teams. A lot of these AAA teams did come into here, and they did what they know, and it works other places. It just they didn't understand what skins people like, what games people like, how people interact with the teleporter rather than a door, which that changed. But you know what I mean? They're just like, it's a whole new way of creating, but those people that have been around will pick it up fast too. So
yeah,
anyway.
Totally.
All right, I want to look ahead a little bit because it feels like this is still like early innings for what you're building. So without spoiling anything confidential, what's on the horizon for Ghost Launchpad and your team? Are there any new types of Fortnite experience or partnerships you're exploring that Fortnite creators out there might get excited about?
Yeah, so we have a motto at Ghost Gaming: belong and thrive, right?
Yeah.
We want our developers to belong and we want them to thrive. And one of the ways we do that on the game development side is we pick genres that people are interested in, that we think have an opportunity for growth inside of Fortnite. And then we have several teams invest in those genres, and the best game wins. This is a model that Tencent has deployed, NetEase has deployed, and several other R&D departments that I've personally worked in use, right? It's just, you're all learning together and growing together. And so for us, we're really excited about turn-based RPGs.
Yeah.
Super Pet World has had great signal for us. It is niche, extremely niche. But there are people who really, really love it. He reached number 2 most engaging in all of Fortnite.
Incredible.
Number 1 on Tycoon. Yeah, at one point, dude, we had like an average playtime of almost 120 minutes per day. I mean, it was crazy. It was some crazy dedicated.
I don't think I've ever heard of that, dude. That's crazy.
They'll beat us. I mean, we couldn't get the number 1 spot, but like, yeah, it was really good.
Wow.
So we want to do more there. We have great technology. Again, we spent a year building the technology. Behind it, I think we want to continue to invest in Super Pet World, but we also want to take that technology and use it to make other games.
Nice.
We're also exploring other niche genres. We've done a little bit of experimentation inside of horror. I think there's room for growth there. It's interesting. And then there's a few I won't name because I don't want to tip our hand, but there's things that we're trying that are like really far out there. Like maybe Fortnite players won't even like them, but we just have some theories and there's no existing audience and we want to try it.
Yeah.
And like sometimes that's what you do. And we're just going in with eyes wide open. I'm like, hey, this may be like a horrible business case for us.
Yeah.
But like, it also might be genius. And like the teams are passionate about it. And sometimes that's enough. So we are approaching that. And we're also doing a couple of other cool things. Next month, we have an activation with a nonprofit to raise awareness about children with heart transplants.
Oh, incredible.
So really cool, and excited to talk more about that soon. And in May, we're going to be hosting several events in Atlanta, like Creator Summit, in between DreamHack, IEM, and MomoCon, which are all big gaming or gaming culture or anime culture related events that happen here. We're also going to have an event where we're showcasing UEFN games, including those from our own portfolio, and having a big activation where people can come and play and learn and interact with developers. And last time we did this, which was just a few months ago, we also spoke to folks. We had a portion of the event was dedicated to young girls who want to learn about game development and content creation. And so Hannah Grace, who's on the publishing team.
Yeah, Hannah, the best.
She stood up and she gave a presentation on like, hey, look, here's how I make thumbnails. Like, it's actually really cool. You probably don't know this is a job. Here's how I post things in 3D, right? Here's how I augment them. Here's a couple. And we stuck in a little A/B testing also. Like, hey, which thumbnail do you like the most?
Yeah.
By the way, very valuable. The one that we thought was going to win was not the one that won. And it was overwhelming with the audience. Just as a reminder, you need to always test with your actual audience because your compass sometimes can be a little bit off. And so back your intuition with data, right? That's how we opened. And I'll just remind you of that. You need to measure and you need to be honest with yourself about those measurements and what they're telling you.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff that I can't talk about. And there's a lot more of things that unfortunately I can't talk about, but I think it will be a good year for us. I'm very excited.
Yeah. That's incredible, man. I love that. Like I already said, man, you guys are always giving back and doing cool initiatives and charity work. Incredible. And, I've had 2, 3.
I should also mention, we are sponsoring local universities for Global Game Jam, and we're trying to get more people to do UEFN-based stuff inside of game jams. So a little bit of workforce development as well, towards just raising the overall bar in the ecosystem. More verse developers, please, and more folks who are comfortable working inside of the UEFN toolset and investing in there, right? We have these game jams. People are working on Unity, Unreal Engine, Godot, right? And they have to build everything from scratch. You could go into UEFN and build such a way more impressive game in that same amount of time. And so we're trying to advocate for that more here in the southeast of the United States.
Amazing. So again, before we wrap up, dude, like this is perfect. Like shout out where people can follow you and your work and, the Creator Launchpad or Ghost Launchpad, things like that. Or if they're interested in reaching out for any of those events, like how do they reach you?
So you can find me on Twitter or X, depending on what you're calling it, at the handle Lionheart, spelled how it sounds. I actually have the original. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name's Brian Grayson. My short is BS Grayson for the URL. You can also join our Discord, which is discord.gg/ghostgaming, and I'll be in the user list. And of course, on our website, ghostgaming.com, or in Fortnite at ghostgaming.
Yeah, all those links in the description, please. Go follow them. All right, last one before you get out of here, man. This was a longer one. Dude, I lost track of time, man. We've been having a great time. This is dude, we're going to have you come back because
I'd love to.
Yeah, wealth of knowledge.
Controversial topics. We should talk about something controversial.
Oh, no, for sure. We can get the short clips. We'll think of some good short clips. So yeah. Maybe that AAA one.
I love it.
So you've successfully navigated an evolving industry from traditional development into new frontiers of UGC. For all the young Fortnite creators and aspiring game devs listening, like, what's your message to them? Any advice on how to seize this moment and build something amazing in Fortnite, creative, or whatever platform they're interested in?
Entrepreneurship is a decade-long journey, and you need to be patient. You need to work hard. You need to surround yourself with people who have similar goals, and people aren't going to understand what you're doing, and that's okay. Like, some people are going to tell you you're wasting your time, or why are you doing this? You could go get a regular job, whatever. That's okay. If you're having fun and you love what you're doing, now is still early. It's still a great time to get involved. There are still, as we talked about, new games, new studios breaking out every year at the top area, but also a lot more in the middle area.
Yeah. And
all of that stuff is going to grow over time. So, I would just say have patience with yourself. And maybe one other thing is you don't need to go all in to get started. One of the cool things about Launchpad is we have several people in our program who are moonlighting, and I won't name who they are, but they have a full-time job that has nothing to do with game development, and that's how they pay their bills. And then they're doing game development on the side. And, if you're doing a full-time job and game dev on the side, you probably don't have time for anything else. That's like your full week every week.
Oh, yeah.
And so have realistic expectations, I guess, for yourself also and the cost of entrepreneurship. But it's a great time to get involved and just believe in yourself. And remember, a decade-long journey, 10 years. There are people in Roblox celebrating their successes, and you'll see it again and again. I've been on this for 15 years, right? Fortnite UEFN's scene is a little younger, but yeah, just be patient
Yeah.
and enjoy the ride. The journey is what the most fun is. The end of it is like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
If you succeed, you have some money. If you don't, you learned a lot of lessons. But like the process is really where the joy comes in.
100%, man. I couldn't say that better, man. Great way to wrap this episode up. Ryan, thank you so much. Seriously, for sharing all of this. Keep crushing it, man. I love your guys' games. You guys have been making a lot of great games in the ecosystem. Definitely go check them out. I'll put their Fortnite link as well in the description, so you guys go check out their games. Like they're producing high quality games in this ecosystem. So hats off to you guys. You could have easily chased the the quick dollar games, but you guys are actually innovating and pushing big games. So
yeah, it's
amazing.
fun. You really got to challenge the tool set. It is more capable than you realize if you have a little bit of patience and you learn all the moving pieces. And again, just surrounding yourself with great people, I mean, makes all the difference.
That's just it.
Thanks so much for having me. This has been lovely.
And we're gonna do this again. This will happen again, brother. Well, hey, hopefully see you maybe at Unreal Fest this year. Hopefully, and everyone, if you do see him, go say hi. If he shows up, I hope you come.
I will find a way to be there.
All right, cool. I'm kind of pressuring you right now. I'm putting you on the spot.
I like it. It's good.
All right, bro. That's an episode, man. Thank you. Brian, this was a masterclass. Seriously, thank you for coming on and going deep on what actually matters in UEFN, retention, iteration, and how real studios think about shipping and scaling games. If you are a creator trying to build something that lasts, this episode is one you should rewatch and take notes on. And make sure you follow Lionheart Brian Grayson, because he is one of the few people bringing real publishing experiences into UGC in a way that actually helps creators. And if you enjoyed this episode, please do me a favor, follow the podcast, subscribe on YouTube, hit that like button, and if you are listening on audio, leave a positive review on your favorite podcast app. It generally helps more than you think. See you in a fortnight, which is in 2 weeks, and remember, don't hate, create.